Hello and welcome to the Untranslatable podcast. We are here recording episode 112, all about objectives in teaching and also a little bit in life as well. So we might be getting a little deep and philosophical today. At least I hope Jared's going to bring some depth and some, I don't even know what the right word is for that right there. But yeah. So anyways, we're looking forward to talking about objectives today. How you can use them in teaching and also ways you can use them in your life. So we hope this will be a helpful episode for everybody. Without further ado, my band bringing that depth. My buddy Jared, what's going on, Jared?
Hello. Great introduction. I agree with everything except for the word objectives. This is not a team meeting for the middle management group at Wells Fargo. But we'll get to that later. Other than that, but yeah, I'm excited nonetheless. Before we start, I have a quick disclaimer. Chad regretted to inform me before we started this podcast that I am no longer welcome at the Chad household.
That's right. Kicked out.
We had fun, but he had enough after 4 episodes, however many episodes that was. And listen, I understand. I get it, but it is hard to hear. I'm not gonna lie. But hey, listen, I'm still a professional. He's still a professional. He said he wants to continue doing the podcast. He's like, just some
Keep
distance,
your space.
please.
Yeah, exactly.
Some distance. But that's fine. Now let's move on. Spread a little love. Follow us, Untranslatable Podcast. Follow us. Instagram. Follow us, Untranslatable1 on Twitter. Email us, untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com. Slide into those DMs.
Пожалуйста.
Give us some podcast recommendations, on topic recommendations, or new podcasts. Sure, why not? I have plenty of time. Give us some untranslatables, idioms, which are idioms, sayings, proverbs, maybe an axiom if you're feeling spicy.
Extra spicy.
Has a funny translation usually of some sort or a weird translation into English, but it means something when your family says it to you or you heard it at a camp somewhere. Or, of course, spread a little love with those 5-star reviews, because that's what we're here for, is for your accolades and for your love. So, spread a little love. But yeah, that's Jared's overload of stuff for today.
There we go. Well, Jared, I want to tell you, I stumbled across something kind of interesting today. I thought I'd ask you about it. I wanted to get your opinion. I came across this article on a website called The Broke Backpacker.
Oh, Broke Backpacker, okay.
That's right. And the title is 9 Ways Travel Will Make You a Better Person. And without me reading the list, I want you to give me the Jared's number 9.
9's a lot, first of all.
Ways, I do not care. Number 9 ways travel will make you a better person, because I'm sure you can think of 9 good ones.
It'll improve your language skills.
Okay, there's one.
It'll improve your interpersonal skills.
Okay, 2.
You'll get exposed to delicious foods.
Yeah, if you're adventurous enough to eat them, yeah, definitely.
You have the ability to. You'll get to see cool sights.
Okay.
You'll learn a lot about history.
Okay. There are
5. You'll get lost.
Is that a good or a bad thing, Jared? What
It
do you
sounds like
think?
a tattoo that someone gets. Get lost.
Backpacking in Europe during the gap year. So we got 6.
Hold on. Nah, get lost is stupid, but this is hard, especially just off the top of my head. 9 things that
travel will make you a better person.
Will make you a better person. You'll learn how to better manage difficult situations.
Okay, so
like
7.
Stressful situations, let's say.
Sure. It's very stressful traveling with me, isn't it, Jared?
You'll get to experience. You betcha. You'll get to experience new. I guess did I already say new people? Meet new people?
No.
Or / make new friends.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's an obvious ones I'm missing.
Okay. I think those are pretty good, though.
Okay.
Let me see if I can recap them all.
Wow.
So language skills.
That's even more impressive.
Language skills, interpersonal skills.
Uh-huh.
New foods.
Uh-huh.
Sightseeing.
Uh-huh.
Is 4.
You betcha.
What was 5? Sightseeing. Get to meet new people. That was like 6 or 7, but we'll count it as 5. Meet new people. / make new friends. Get lost. You didn't count it, but I'll count it.
Okay. Now I'm starting to forget.
Okay. We should have written these down.
I mean,
That's why
luckily
you gotta
everyone
keep
listening
notes.
to this can will remember it because they
That's
can just
true.
hit that 15-second backwards.
Oh, man. If only we had that
what,
luxury, Jared.
what is this? Hit that 15-second backwards on life. What
That's right.
does the list say?
The list says, well, here, I haven't actually read it in a few days. So let me give you mine,
Okay.
and then we'll read the list. So
well, that's not fair. Now you just can use most of mine.
I'm going to try not to use yours.
Okay.
I'm going to try really hard not to use yours.
Some of them are valid, though.
All of them are valid. They're great. They're great, but I'm going to
thanks.
try to think of 9 other
blushing.
ways travel will make you a better person.
Okay.
Number 1, take you out of your comfort zone.
Uh-huh.
Number 1, traveling always does that. Number 2, let's see here. Travel will make you a better person because you are, I would say traveling tends to make people more adventurous.
Yeah.
Is that a separate one, or does
fearful?
that, yeah? I would say it also usually will, yeah, it's hard to not use yours. I'm trying to, all the ones you said were really good ones. Let's see here. Oh, well, here, this one's kind of a slightly a different take on yours, is you could maybe diversify your taste buds and your palate.
Yeah. I mean, that's just a
It's
different way of
worded
saying it. This
differently.
is like
Yeah,
a fancier way of saying
yeah.
what I said.
Yeah, I know. That's not fair. Okay, fine. Then, all right, I can't think of any more. This is too tough. I give up. So let's see here. So
3
number
hours
1.
later.
That's right. So number 1, increased confidence. Would you agree with this, Jared?
I've never traveled alone, but I do have a higher confidence in my ability to travel, period.
Yeah. Yeah, the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yeah. And
More
I look
used
for
to
it. And every time I do I go a little further, it makes me want to do something, go a little further every time.
Yeah,
So I'd say
for sure.
yes. Even if it's
gotta
not
push
making more
yourself.
friends, it's just like location choices.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. We might be doing that in a couple months, but we'll talk about that later. So another one, number 2, is new friends.
Slipping on gator piss.
I feel like this is the Don Strite ultimate best thing about travel is making new friends.
Yeah. Listen to his new podcast. It's the art of picking up friends and ladies.
There you go.
It's one of those
Ooh.
original millennial white dude pickup artist. That's
right.
not even a millennial thing. Anyway, I regret everything and nothing at the same time.
Number 3, falling in love. Now, you got to open your mind to this one a bit, Jared. This doesn't mean falling in love with maybe a lady or whoever you choose to fall in love with, but falling in love with the food, the sights, the museums, the people, the language.
That's
the list
beautiful.
goes on.
Yes.
Would you agree?
Mama hoo hoo.
Okay. Number 4.
I get what they're saying.
Yeah.
I get what they're saying. I mean, you could theoretically find. I mean, not theoretically. It's very possible you find a place that you're like, oh, this is my city, and yeah, all right.
Vienna
All right,
wasn't your city?
It is my city. That's why I said. That's what made me
Okay.
think I should take that back.
I see. Okay. Number 4, volunteering opportunities.
Yeah, I guess if that's what most
Yeah.
people don't go on a trip for that unless it's like a mission trip or something. But I
Right.
don't have a problem with mission trips.
Right.
Just keep the Jesus in the van.
That's true. Number 5, they
Make the
say
house Jesus in the van. It's my new. I would put that on my business cards.
There you go. Number 5 is
Check
new
out my new pickup
skills.
artist show. Yeah, that's what I should have thought about that. Obviously,
I mean, even this may sound stupid, but even just riding, getting around with the public transportation the first time you're there,
Yeah.
Once
Yeah.
you get the hang of it, life gets real easy in whatever city you're visiting.
Yeah, for sure. That was actually the first time I probably did I used my phone. Well, outside of the U.S., I guess. No,
Maps
I'd say
off?
this. No, I'd probably say no. I take even in general. I think this was the first time I used my cell phone, Google Maps for subway information. Mm-hmm. It's surprisingly easy to follow, but it still can't tell you which tunnel to go down to get to the right direction. And if you've traveled long enough, you will make that mistake.
Oh, for sure.
You listen to me and you hear me right now.
We did that in Berlin.
One.
We did that in Berlin. We had a nice little trip to the outskirts of Berlin.
Yeah, it's like, wow,
number 6.
Way less stuff than I remember on our trip in.
Right. Number 6. I agree 100% with this. You appreciate the little things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that's one of the first things you really start to notice outside of just like the glitz and glamour of new scenery is once you start settling in is what you don't have. Or how you have to adapt.
For sure. I could not agree more. I mean, every time I've been abroad, you just miss certain little things either about your home country or when you come back. You know, there are already some little things I miss about the Czech Republic. So, yeah. Number 7, increased awareness. I would agree with this, because you are going and meeting with people of different backgrounds, different political views, all sorts of stuff.
Yep. All right. I'm with you. Wait.
That was my speaker.
A bird just fall on your table? Oh, okay.
No, that was my speaker. Number 8, self-development. Traveling develops you as a person. I would agree with this.
Yeah, sure, of course.
It's a little cliche, but it's true.
I mean, they're just saying reasons why. They're not saying, I mean, that's a very valid one. It's cliche because it's true, I think.
Yeah, and number 9 is improved...
Go ahead. I just shit on them some more. Just go ahead.
Number 9 is improved job prospects. Now, depending on the career field, I would say that usually... Now, if you just say, I went to Jamaica for a weekend...
That's true.
I'm
thinking about someone that... I'm thinking about it from my perspective.
Worked abroad.
But most of my experience comes from living in Germany and not even anything I did there other than the fact that I now know German well enough to say I'm at least conversational in it. But you don't really get that from traveling. I mean, you get better at languages, but you're never going to get better at like as good enough to put it on your resume, unless you keep it up after because you were motivated to learn it because of your trip.
I've got a couple languages on my resume.
Not because of travel, though. No,
that's true.
Right.
More study, but yeah.
You're not going to put... What's a country you've been to that you don't know the language to at all? That's not how you travel.
That's true.
You stay domestic, whatever country you're in, and just go to town on those places.
I do. Yeah, it's a good way to get to know the place you're in.
Do you put French on your resume?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, you've been to France, so there's a good example.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And you've been there more than once?
Once.
How long?
A week.
Yeah, that's long enough to put it on your resume.
Is it? Visiting an ex-girlfriend in Paris.
Okay.
Baguette croissant. Yeah, I cannot speak French. Not at all.
You
whatsoever.
got 2 words right there. What give me another one. I was gonna say what number
that was all 9. That was all of them.
All right. I got you.
It was an interesting list, and I would agree with it. And if any of our listeners are curious about travel and they want some places to go, they can tune into our travel tips episodes.
That's
and
very
find
true.
A lot of great tips to travel, and hopefully be able to experience one or many of these 9 ways travel will make you a better person.
I'm going to quiz you. Where did we just go on our travel tips series?
Ann Arbor, my good sir.
Oh, very good.
Parada.
It's not whether or not you remembered the last episode we recorded. It was more or rather, do you remember the schedule? Yep. I wanted to see how good you were. But he got it, so hey.
Parada. I did.
So I moved into this new home. I'm making this house my home. Couple observations.
Okay.
One, these movers that came here it took about 2.5 hours to bring everything in. It took like 9+ hours to take it out, which I guess makes sense. They actually have to pack stuff. Now they're just throwing boxes. I didn't realize I thought part of the perks of a full service moving company is that I didn't have to actively be working. But I understand maybe pointing them into rooms and stuff, but I had to sit there. They had like a count of every box and piece of furniture. So I was at the little thing, keeping track, marking off the numbers.
Ticking them off the list, eh?
Yeah. And so as soon as they finished, and so I was told by my coworkers before I went home, they're going to try to get out of doing stuff. Don't be ashamed to ask them to do stuff because your company pays for it and they pay for all day. And
all day, baby.
They're going to try to get out of unpacking stuff as quickly as possible.
Of course.
So as soon as all the boxes were out, they couldn't put the bed together. And I was like, and they're like, yeah, we can't figure it out. We don't know. And I'm like, okay. And they just like it seemed like they just quit on trying, and we were just all sitting around there just like looking at it.
They tried it. They tried it like 2-3 times, minutes. And they were done with it.
No one was doing anything. Like, look, it doesn't line up. And I was like, that's it. That's your attempt. So I was like, fine. They're like, you got to call the company that schedules us, and they'll send out someone that can work on it. And they're like, and then after that, the guy's like, I'm sure you don't want us to unpack all these boxes. And in my head, I was like, I was told this was going to happen.
Yep.
And me being a coward, I was like, well, I at least want you to like put together all the furniture, but no, you do not have to unpack the boxes. And in my head, I was like, you goddamn
why did
coward.
you do that?
That's
so
anyway,
you got to answer the question with the question, my man. You got to say, aren't you getting paid to take these out of
Yeah, but
the
you never want to
boxes?
bring up the pay like that. That's very uncouth, Chad.
Okay. Well, I'm just an
the way-
uncouth gentleman, but what?
Speaking of uncouth, they started the day by the leader that I found out later was actually the leader of the crew because one of the guys kept calling him boss. I opened the door when they knocked on my door at 9 o'clock, and I was like, morning, and they're like, man, and the guy started by going, man, we're all tired.
It's a good way to start
And
the
the
day
other guy
right
is
there.
like, he's tired. He's like, I'm fine. And I was like, wow, this is how you show up to the start a day at work to your like customer. I was like, man, I'm
Strong
tired.
start.
I was like, well, I'm not going to tell you, hey, the air mattress
just
is in
go
the other
home.
room. Take a
You're right.
nap. Start in like 2 hours. Let's get this going. We're in no rush, baby. So I was like, okay. And so there was like the company did hire someone, like call someone to like that was like the assembler, and literally him and there were 3 people that were like moving the place, and 2 people that came to put this bed together, and it took like 10 minutes, and I was like,
I believe
okay.
it.
I was like, I didn't realize you guys literally didn't want to do anything. They actually kind of convinced me. I was like, I don't think these guys are gonna be able to do it. But they could do it, obviously. But other than that, it was fine. You know what's weird, though? And even though it's nice to have furniture, and I slept in an actual bed, not a deflated air mattress, I have furniture, and it feels great to sleep in a real bed. I have a table to eat dinner at. But the kitchen and a lot of the stuff to me is still kind of foreign. Like, you're still in a foreign place because you have to pull open, like, even though I just put it in the drawers, I still have to pull open, like, 4 drawers before I can find a spoon. And I was like, I did this yesterday.
Right.
This is my home. But it's still fun. That's part of the mystery. That's part of the enjoyment of new homes and new beginnings, everyone.
Oh, definitely. For sure. For sure.
So,
well, buddy, do you think it's time that we
spread a little love? I definitely do. I'm in a good mood.
Nice.
Can you start? I have one, but could you please start?
I can. My first shout out goes out to my cousin, or he's family. It's kind of complicated, but he has a new ice cream place in Dexter called Naughty Boy's Ice Cream, and it is the bomb.
All right, Naughty Boy.
It is the bomb. So it was good to see you, Corey. Saw him the other day, and
does he have a motto for this place?
I don't know if he does. That's a good question. I was
What's
in there
it called
yesterday
again?
for
Naughty
the first
Boy?
time. Naughty Boy's Ice Cream. And
You know
dude,
what, I'll
the
tell
ice
you.
cream, the way it's set up is it's like this flat area that's super cold, and you pour the cream and the ingredients on this, and then you roll the ice cream with like a scraper. It's awesome.
I don't want to. Well, I'm not going to say another company's name while you're giving props to your. But it's like on a chilled piece of
Metal, yeah. And then they scrape it.
Yeah.
But oh man, it is good. Naughty Boy's Ice Cream. Check it out. Dexter, Michigan. It's on Dexter Ann Arbor Road. It is
Naughty
absolutely
Boy
fantastic.
rolled. Oh, sorry, I cut you off. Oh, and then it comes in like a roll. I didn't realize it actually stayed in a roll.
Oh yeah, and
This
get
is
the
very
whipped cream.
fancy these
Get the
days.
whipped cream and the caramel, and you will not be disappointed.
All right.
So that was my first shout out. Looks
All right,
good,
sorry.
doesn't it, Jared?
It does look good, and I'm getting distracted by the ice cream, but then also about our story. We never imagined a trip that started out as an exotic honeymoon to Thailand would see even more apropos to this podcast.
There we go.
Would completely change our world. We were just talking about this. Did you know that connection was there when you did this?
I didn't.
Oh, you should have said yes. I didn't think you did, but as I was
Yes.
asking, I was like, I kind of hope he just says yes. even
Yes,
though
just
I
edit it
know he
out,
did.
Jared. Just
This is perfect.
edit everything out.
That's
Yes.
they opened a company because of traveling. Thailand would completely change our world. Walking along the beaches of Phuket, we stumbled upon a street cart rolling up what we discovered to be the simplest, freshest ice cream we had ever had. After a few return visits to the street cart and a 30-hour transatlantic plane ride, we were convinced that we needed to bring this innovative Thai-inspired treat back home with us. While on our trip, we were lucky enough to be able to spend a day at the Elephant Jungle Sanctuary in Phuket, an initiative by locals to help preserve and protect the native Asian elephant population. Blah, blah, blah. There's a long story, and there's pictures of elephants. People,
nice.
The ladies
check
love the
out.
elephants, so check that out. And they don't have any sort of fun, like, naughty dog. If you're feeling feisty, cool down with some naughty dog.
Not that I know of, no.
But hit us up. Like, that was great. I'm going to actually cut that and tag them on Instagram.
Oh, God, here we go.
And be like, hey, if you're looking for it, it's only $10,000 per every time I say it.
That's because you're a naughty dog, Jared. That's why.
Woof, woof, baby. Okay. Shout out to another one of my naughty dogs. And of course, right before I was about to talk about it, I closed the article. But because I'm a skilled professional, I forgot to have it linked. I literally just had this open. All right, let me just read the title, then we'll get to where it's at. I can do this. I'm a professional. I work in radio professionally outside of this too. So first, let's start with the title of the story. Woman pushes anti-gay priest off stage in front of 50,000 worshipers.
Oh, I saw that.
Did you hear about this?
I saw that.
Crazy.
That was wild.
This is crazy. So that's exactly what happened. Do you know where it was at? And if you don't, at least take a guess.
Mm-mm. Texas?
No, it was not in America.
I have no idea.
No, excuse me. It was not in the United States of America.
Mexico?
No, it was in Brazil.
Brazil? Okay.
So
she just tackled him off the stage.
Yeah, it was a powerful move, and it seemed to work. And I kind of respect it.
Really?
You know, I do. Yeah. One, it's kind of like the whole punch a Nazi thing. I'm not telling you to punch a Nazi, but a Nazi, especially a Nazi that happens to actively be spewing some Nazi stuff, I'm not going to get mad if I find out he gets punched. I'm not going to tell you don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you that you're a terrible person, but I'm also not going to recommend you do it.
That's
and
fair.
I'm also not going to... So that's kind of the same thing with this. This guy is spewing anti-gay stuff at a church, and I'm not going to recommend that, hey, the best thing to do in those situations are to get up and push an old man off of a stage. However, I'm not going to scold you after the fact if I see you at a barbecue.
Do you know it was the priest all right? Because he went flying, man.
I'm just kidding.
He went flying.
All right. During a mass service in Sao Paulo, Brazil, on Saturday, 14th of July afternoon, one of the country's most famous priests, Father Marcello Rossi, was shoved off stage by a woman who ran past security and onto the stage with him. So security, this guy's a big deal. If you were at a concert, by the way, this would never happen.
Right.
Just shout out to your security because clearly they're not believers. The shocking moment happened in front of an estimated crowd. Do you know how big this crowd was?
Oh, it looked big. I don't know, probably 10,000?
50,000 people. And was also broadcast on television.
It was crazy to see the reactions. Sorry to cut you off, buddy. It was crazy to see the reactions
I'd believe
of the people after she shoved him. But the crazy thing is everybody just stood there. Only a couple people
he'd
already
fallen. If you're in the back, what are you supposed to do? Jog up and push people out of the way to make sure he's okay?
Power walk.
Yeah. I'll be there in a second. Hold on. This is a big church, and there are a lot of people crowding you.
Right.
Hey, excuse me. No. I'm the best. According to various Brazilian news outlets, the unnamed woman is a 32-year-old and had traveled from Rio de Janeiro with her 3-year-old child to attend the event and set a good example. It's unclear why she pushed Rossi, but Brazilian newspaper O Dia has reported she said that she wanted to come in to talk to him and that she was scared the moment she saw the security guards running after her.
Interesting. Okay.
I feel like
all right.
I would have respected her more if she just admitted to it. It'd be
I
like,
was just gonna say
that's right, I pushed him.
Right. That went downhill
Many
a
fregista.
little quicker than I thought it would. My
Wait,
shout out.
so that's how she's trying to play it off?
I was trying to talk to him, and I just accidentally pushed him right off the stage.
But the reason I brought this up, I do respect it still in the sense, I'm going to believe that she did it out of retaliation, and once she heard how much trouble she can get into, she backed off.
I'm sure.
I still go to church with my family whenever I go back home, and I always kind of hope that they say some out-of-pocket things, not so I can run up and push them off stage, just so I could
You've just been waiting for that moment, haven't you, Jared?
Not to push him off stage, but I kind of have been waiting for that moment for him to talk about gay marriage or a woman's place in the household. Even they don't really talk about that in that church, but the gay stuff I can imagine, and just be and just so I could do my silent protest and walk out. I'll be waiting outside by Grandma's 2001 Lexus.
You should heckle him. Be
heckle him. Boo!
Or if he starts talking about gay marriage, just be like, it's okay. It can be Adam and Steve, too.
When I was, maybe I'll do that next time. But it hasn't happened yet. I mean, it's not like I've been overwhelmed with this is amazingness, but he hasn't said anything that's maybe been like, wow. Right. You call yourself a man of God? Okay.
That's a good question, Jared.
I'll have my lawyers talk to your lawyers
asking the big
about
question. Now, my next shout out is a clever marketing ploy by I need to find his name. 11-year-old
Billy Mays.
Seth, who has been standing outside his parents' house with an ice cold beer sign, but the clever little guy, of course, wrote "root" really small above the word beer. It's hard to see. But the police have actually been to this sign now 3 times. They have been called. Because
is this a black kid?
No, he's a white kid. Seth.
Okay. If it was a black kid, he would. All right. People are so. First of all, mind your own business. Second of all, what if he was selling beer? Who cares? Third of all,
you have to be 18. Some states, I think, even 20 or 21 to sell beer, Jared. He's 11. A couple years short.
And even if he call the cops, really?
Yeah.
God, get out of here. Yeah, I hate that.
But then, of course, the police officers thought it was quite ingenious.
Oh,
I think it's hilarious.
Once again.
Sign. Yeah. All right. Well, I was trying to spread some love, and Jared just shitting on it for good reason. So it is what it is. So, Jared, I think you know what time it is.
There's this. We've joked about those stories so many times about that was true. One of those nickname ladies because the girl was selling water, by the way.
Yep. Yeah, that was trash.
Is that all you got? That was the most negative by me. That was on me. Love spreading ever.
That's all right, Jared. I think it's time
to your cousin
to do
and the ice cream.
For sure. It's fantastic. Naughty Boys, check it out. It was fantastic. Dexter Ann Arbor Road. So let's get into it. That's right, Jared. Let's get into it.
I'll start then if we're getting into it.
All right.
Fine, you convinced me. Let's start with some Greek. Soukanei tin soe patini. That literally means something. A whore's fence post. Or usually the full thing would be something turns into a whore's fence post. Like that turned into a real whore's fence post.
So like when something's a dud?
No.
Can you give me an example?
My example to you would be the complete opposite of what you just said.
Oh, so it's something that's great.
No, let's put it this way. The movie The Hangover would be considered something that started off as that it was a real whore's fence post. It turned into a whore's fence post. Let's put it that way.
Like a big hit?
If the movie The Hangover were real life,
okay,
and you and I and our friends were the characters, it would turn into a real horse fence post. I fully changed that.
Yep.
To get out of hand, Chad.
Okay.
Something gets out
I
of
see.
hand.
Okay.
I'm trying my hardest to not fully give it away anymore, you know? Because I was
Right.
going to say, you know, we go to a party, someone orders prostitutes and
That did
and
get out of hand.
cocaine,
Okay.
and it turns into a real fence post.
Right. Okay.
Are you done with the check ones for now, at least?
I am.
Or at least done making it like a thing?
Yep.
Okay.
No check ones today. But I
I
have.
might have to eventually update the soundboard.
Parada.
Yep. I guess so, huh?
Viborni.
My next one is, or my first
Luvertanski.
one is Finnish. And it is Lusika Joka Sopasa, which means
Sorry, that was an accident.
it's all good. Lusika Joka Sopasa is a spoon in every soup.
A spoon in every soup. So it's like nobody goes hungry.
Nope.
That's not like what Grandma says when you come over to her house.
No. Let me give you an example. Like you,
Or you got a lot of eggs, a lot of eggs in a lot of baskets. Like you got a lot going on.
there you go. Good work. Good work.
Ooh, came through with the buzzer beater on that one.
Yep,
I don't know where
yep.
it came from. It came to me, everyone.
That's
My
right.
next one is Arabic, and it's Dokul el Hamam Mish Se Korugo. And it literally, do you know what it means by any chance?
Nope.
Do you know any of those words?
No idea. Nope.
Entering a bathroom isn't like leaving it.
Entering a bathroom is not like leaving it. So it's like the grass is always greener on the other side?
No.
No.
But I obviously see where you're coming from. Speaking of which, the grass isn't always greener. Now that I have a lawn that I have to mow, I've been here for a week, and I'm like, grass grows fast.
Yes, it does. Get yourself
Anyway.
a pack of llamas. They'll just graze on it.
That's a
some
good
sheep
idea.
or some goats.
Oh, goats.
Get some goats, dude. That'd be dope.
That would be great for composting, too. Goats eat everything.
There you
You
go.
got some like leftover food or some tin cans. Just throw it out there for the goats to eat.
There you go.
Entering a bathroom isn't like leaving it.
What? I don't know. What? Give me an example.
So, we are on our hangover style bachelor party for Don, who's getting married in a bit, and he's like, "Nah, come on, let's rent the Ferrari, and get the penthouse and just use the back elevator that's only for mattresses," and I'd be like, and we would say, first we would be saying, well, this is turning into a real horse fence post. But then after then it's like, wow, we actually did get the Ferrari into the room. And then we wake up the next morning and we're like, how do we get this Ferrari out of this room? You know, if I actually wanted to use the plot of the movie, I could have mentioned, for example, a tiger in a bathroom. That would have
Right.
been way better because that actually happened in the movie.
That's true. So that's basically like it's a situation that's hard to get yourself out of.
There you go.
You've gotten yourself into, yeah.
It's not easy getting out of tricky situations.
Okay. So I'm going to give you a Swedish one now. And
Okay,
it
Hurga
is-
Flurga.
It is alla hons hemma, which means you don't have
Everyone's-
all the hens at home.
Dude, I'm not even going to lie. I was going to say something about being home.
Yep. Don't have all the hens at home.
But you didn't give me a
Alla hons hemma.
chance. Is that just saying you're crazy, not having all...
Nope.
Or is that like you're like disorganized?
You were closer earlier when you were talking about the eggs in the basket.
Say the English literal phrase again. We're gonna get this, everyone.
Don't have all the hens at home.
Oh, is it like don't keep all your eggs in one basket? It's kind of like diversify your funds.
Unfortunately, actually, sorry, I misled you there. No, it is not. It actually means that
Slip
you
it
are
on
not
gator piss.
the brightest candle in the candle box.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Don't have all of the hens at home. You're a little crazy.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. That makes
A little
sense.
crazy. Yep.
I have one more, and it's Welsh.
Cool.
Hurga Flurga. I'm just kidding now. Not that I was totally serious before. An angel on. So two things. One, I thought I got a different one. This is the one. I thought I got a different one that was in a different language. Two, I started reading this English untranslatable as if it was about to be in a different language. And I was like,
Nice.
an angel. And I was like, or an angel. An angel on the road, a devil in the fireplace. There is a different language thing that I forgot to copy, but I'm still gonna do it anyway. Because let's be honest, I would have said it wrong anyway. So this is the literal translation.
So it's where an angel
on the road, a devil in the fireplace. An ángel andará a débil in the pipleza.
Is that how you say it?
I'm sorry. Listen.
Okay.
Mama hoo hoo.
Can you give me an example?
It's some might say that a lot of celebrities, especially older celebrities, or some might say this, or you could just say Bill Cosby would be considered an angel on the road and a devil at the fireplace. Or
so just a terrible person who you thought was a good person?
There you go.
All right.
I mean, the judges are saying yes, but I'll give you a little bit more context to that one specifically. Okay. It means charming to outsiders, or strangers or people that don't know you, but a devil in the home, two-faced. So it's like all the people that know you are like, this person is the people that really know you are like, nah, I don't trust this person. He's not cool. But it's like, oh, this guy's great. Those are the people that don't really know you.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Like Chad telling me that I can no longer come over to his house.
That's right. Not welcome around these parts.
All right. I realize, Chad, I get it that I only brought over 2 gifts while you brought over, by the way, more than 4.
Really?
Yeah, I had like 7 gifts in there. I still have them somewhere. Oh, they're in the other room.
Ooh, you better not have lost them. Oh, man.
My magnet's already on the fridge, so...
Boom. There we go, people.
In your face.
I got one more for you, Jared.
Okay.
It is Swedish. It is slang dig i väggen, which means...
Get out of the way. Something about getting out of the way.
In the wall.
That's exactly... Throw themselves
what you were
in the
thinking,
wall.
Right?
Is it
throw
like
themselves
when you,
in the wall.
Is that like kind of like beating your head against the wall, like you can't figure something out?
Nope. You would if
bouncing off the walls. You're energetic.
I would say this to you, Jared. If you try to come in this house, I would say throw yourself in the wall.
Like take a second guess. Don't even try it. Don't test
kind
me.
of. You're getting closer. We use an English one with hiking.
Take a hike.
Boom. Get out of here. Get out of here. Take a hike.
Okay. Get out of here. Anyway.
Get out of here.
Speaking of getting out of here, how do you get out of your way and plan a class, Chad?
Objectives, my man. That's just what it is. So the reason why we decided to do this episode today is because we haven't done a teacher's edition in a while, and I'm looking forward to nerding out about objectives today, which are a very, very important, if not the driving force behind curriculum development and lesson planning, in my opinion, and the go-to, Jared, for all things objective planning is called Bloom's taxonomy.
Sorry.
You're good. Have you ever heard of Bloom's taxonomy, Jared?
No, but I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't done much lesson planning.
Well, Jared, today you're going to learn some stuff, and we're going to work on writing some objectives for lessons and talking about how you can use some objectives for your own life as well.
Now, 2 questions.
Yes.
Or maybe 1, because I think I might have forgotten the second one. Since you've been on your little hiatus from teaching, do you miss it? And not do you miss the students, not do you miss Czech Republic, do you miss working, do you miss teaching, do you miss going to work?
Yep, I do. I love being able to sleep in as long as I want and not having anywhere to be, but it'll be nice to get back in the swing of things again, start teaching. And it just, to me, it gives my life a lot more structure if I actually am working. I'm looking forward to that, I've just been playing guitar and hanging out. It's been great, but it's pretty soon will be time to get back to work, that's for sure.
Now, I remember my second question. Do you, when you're either while you're working or in a time like now where you're not working, just temporarily, do you seek out, now you mentioned this one book. What was it called again? Bloom? The book you just mentioned?
No, not the book, but just the like framework you use for writing objectives is called Bloom's taxonomy.
Oh, I thought it was someone wrote a book, like Bloom wrote a book called Bloom's Taxonomy about writing this out. Anyway,
It's a framework. It's not a book, but a framework.
Sorry,
but yeah,
a framework.
You're good.
Listen,
You're good.
Do you actively, whether it's in season or out of season teaching, actively seek out documents, frameworks, ways of life, books that help you, that teach you different ways to teach or ways to improve your teaching skills?
Absolutely. It's very, very important, I think, to read up on what is going on.
I'm so mad. I was really hoping that clock would go while we were actually doing them. I looked at the time and thought we would make it happen.
Yeah, no.
Sorry.
Nope. Yeah, the untranslatable
Just
owl
reminding you where you're
is
at.
here and going strong. But yeah,
Our guardian clock.
that's right. But yeah, so for me, it's really important to read different books about methodology. I also really enjoy seeing what other teachers do in their classrooms. I have to say, man, YouTube is also a great teacher for a lot of things.
I mean, that makes sense. It's not surprising at all.
Because then you can see how different activities and lesson plans can actually play out in real life, which can be really useful to know. Then you know, some problems.
What are you
and
watching
things,
on YouTube? You're not watching people explain stuff.
Just all sorts of different things, whether it be activities or demonstrations on how to do different things. Like one of my favorite things to do to teach pronunciation is what you call pronunciation trees or like similar pairs. And what it means is like you'll have two words like sit and nope, I'm not going to use that one. Let's see here.
Why not?
Like you could do like C's and CH's. So like cat and chat.
Oh,
or
I get why. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. But anyways, so you use those pairs. But yeah, so there's a lot of great ways to do that. And even when you are, doing some research for your teaching or for whatever, for doing some research for your work, I think it's really important to take a step back and reflect after you do some reading. Or also before you're reading, read with something in mind. Like what are the 3 main points of whatever I'm reading? Or how can I apply this to my teaching or my real life? You know what I mean? So it's important to have objectives when you're doing just about anything.
I'm not a productive reader. So not to say I'm not a good reader or I'm not even a relatively quick reader, but I'm not a productive reader. So I'm good with fiction and stuff. But I struggle when it comes to, more teachable books, and not like a story.
Right. Yeah, you just have to take those in chunks, I think, You
don't read it like a novel.
No,
you don't even
not
have to
at all.
consume it the same way like that.
Right. And I would
Find
say
what
the
appeals
same,
to you.
Right. And I would say the same thing about Bloom's taxonomy is that when you're starting to implement this into your lesson plans, it's really important, I would say, it's very, very important to make sure you have a good look at it and you understand it, because so there are different levels of this taxonomy. If you just Google Bloom's taxonomy, you'll see all sorts of different images, Jared, of either it laid out as like a triangle or as a chart. If you just Google it, there's tons and tons of different things.
When did you first hear about Bloom's taxonomy?
When I was in grad school for my TESOL degree.
So is that like do other schools, you went to a good, reputable teaching institution.
Right.
Do other schools around the country teach this? I mean, I'm sure other schools teach the same principle, but are there not even competing, that's a weird way to put it, but like other principles as well that you could also teach in a reputable university?
Of course. And there are different schools of thought on how language should be taught, how language is learned, all these things. But I would say that Bloom's taxonomy, it's been around
triangle.
It's been around since 1956. Now it has been revised and changed, which I think is important for any framework you're using. But the nice thing about it is
it's not a science.
Right. But it does, I think, help guide teachers. And I think you can honestly use some of it in your own life if you're independently learning languages. You can take a look at this and it can help you, or if you are trying to, if you're trying to learn anything new, this whole taxonomy is based on how learners learn and how we can help them learn. And what's very important with objectives and teaching in general is also having the students be aware of the objectives. And these types of objectives are they should be listed on a syllabus. The teacher should be, being very transparent with what the students should be able to do at the end of the lessons.
Now, can you go through the 6 levels of Bloom's taxonomy real quick?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So you have remember, understand, and I'll list some of the...
At the base. Remember's at the base of the triangle.
What?
Just as at the base.
Yeah.
I feel like that's important to mention.
Yeah,
we're starting from the bottom and going up.
That's right. So remember, understand, then apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. And I will say this. In terms of language learning, the remembering is very, very critical, as well as these are all important, but really the create phase and the evaluate, these are going to be used, I would say, further down the line when your students or you as an independent language learner have really come fairly far. Because in the very beginning, you're not going to be good enough to, produce, like if I ask you to make a commercial right now in Spanish, Jared, you just don't have the vocabulary yet.
¿Por qué?
You will. Or maybe there's just a couple words in there. But, it'd be the same with me in Czech. I couldn't do a commercial in Czech. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Unless they were just at a bar and they said, "Jeszcze jedno," like one more beer, and that was a commercial.
That could easily be a Pilsner commercial.
Okay, let me rephrase. You and I couldn't write a comic. I couldn't write it in Czech, or you couldn't in Spanish, right? And that would be like the producing.
What part of this triangle, these 6 stages, do you think you struggle with the most?
To teach or as a learner?
Just to, apply to yourself. Like, is there one that's harder than the other? Or it's just like, or maybe there's not one that's harder than the other for you specifically. And you're like, no, this setup is so perfect that once I hit the next step, it's clear on how to tackle it.
It depends.
Or it's like, I'm terrible at remembering basic facts, even though I know them.
Right. Well, it really depends on what you're teaching for and what the class's objectives are, right? So if you're teaching a composition class, then I would say, maybe some of these on more towards the analyze, evaluate, and create, the top of the triangle are probably going to be more commonly used objectives than, recognizing or recalling, right? Because it's the nature of the course. But if I'm doing a speaking and listening class, I'm going to need them to do a lot of remembering and a lot of understanding and a lot of applying, unless you are teaching
so these steps are what the students are supposed to do.
Ideally, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, see, now that's my bad. I thought they were what you were supposed to do, like apply in order to properly set out objectives. These are the objectives
for the students.
That you have for the students.
Exactly. For example, if we wanted to do...
That's me. Slipping on gator piss.
It's all good.
I just feel like I might have confused people.
Right. No, yeah, so basically these are all objectives that you want to think of the students in mind. Basically... You could think of this little mantra in your head. Students will be able to blah, 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 right? So students will be able to recognize verb tense in, the English language, or that's probably too broad. Maybe recognize, present perfect in English writing or speech, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Or students should be able to
apply their language skills to real world situations.
Yeah, that would be a good one. That's a very good one.
Parada.
That's great, Jared. All right, let's come up with a couple more objectives. And I will say this though, and this will help you as well as our listeners. A lot of teachers, and I've made this mistake too, basically objectives are not activities, right? So if I said students will be able to play a game to review vocabulary, right? Mm-hmm. Could be whatever type of game.
Really what it should be is student will be able to quickly remember or recall
vocabulary words. Exactly.
And the game is a way to quickly recall vocabulary words.
Correct. Very good. You got this a lot better than when I was in grad school, that's for sure. So that would be the first stage, remember, right? And then you have understand is the next stage up. So interpreting, so either clarifying, paraphrasing, representing, translating. I'm not a huge fan of translating unless they're like very, very big beginners.
Yeah, you really do not like that. We've had this conversation.
Right. And I think the only time I really use translating is when my students really emphasize that, oh yeah, we need to translate this. I think if they think it's conductive for their learning, maybe it will help them a little bit. At least it gives them less anxiety and peace of mind. I personally, though, as a teacher, don't condone just translating everything back into your native language.
But you also do kind of have to be able to, like a good trainer almost, be able to tell, are they really tired or are they just giving up because it's the easy way out?
Right. Right. And
like, have I really exhausted all ways of explaining this, or they really not get it, or do they really need this English term, or is it just, oh, then I can quickly remember what it is instead of actually being able to, how you prefer to learn them is more organically and not just being recalled it and then being able to translate it directly back to your language immediately and then you move on.
Right, exactly. Because if we're really trying to go for becoming fluent and proficient in another language, you can't constantly be translating back and forth in your head. Mm-hmm. It's too time consuming. You won't have fun conversations. Trust me, I have been there. It's not great. My Czech is still at that level.
Remember, the remember stage is the very base. Yep. That's what we complain about so much in language classes, is that it just seems like a lot of remember, like just remember these grammar rules, and that's it. There's no really understanding why you do them, because you never put them into context by applying them, for example. Right.
Or you do a lot of analysis, I think. At least in my high school German courses, there was definitely a lot of analysis.
But I feel like people don't really understand what they're analyzing, especially language-wise like that, until it's been applied.
I agree.
Like, these are all just sort of like arbitrary rules until you actually understand how they're applied in real life.
Right, 100%. And I think that even goes for if you want to apply these objectives outside of the classroom as well, into your own life, because I think, if you wanna do something, you can use these to kind of guide you and maybe save some time. And when you really know what your clear-cut goal is, I think it's a lot easier to reach that goal. You're not just kind of floating around.
Yeah, I feel that way too. Even something as simple as my piano, which is right next to me. You can actually see it. Mm-hmm. Do you recognize this picture right here by any chance?
I do.
Oh, no, you wouldn't. Oh, you do?
Yeah.
When I said that, I remember. Well, no one that listens does, because at first I forgot that it wasn't behind me. It was actually on the wall in front of me. But anyway, my piano is right there. Theoretically, I have the time, but I just haven't been practicing. One, granted, I've been moving and all that stuff.
You've been busy.
But two, and this is something that also almost kind of bothers me about my piano playing, is without like the consistency of a teacher, I can't do like you and just sit down and play for hours. Right. But I want that. I really want that.
And
a little part of me hopes that it'll come, once I become like more proficient, and it's easier for me to create stuff that I'm actually interested in. Mm-hmm. But that's just a hope. I don't know. Did you play all the time when you were terrible too, or did it ever take did you ever have to be like, I got to practice this thing?
I think it was really once I started playing music with other.
Say no.
It was when I started playing music with a lot of other people. So when I started to play it more and more and more. Once again, this brings us back to where we were. When I was just playing by myself, I was kind of like, well, I could noodle around for a bit, which won't really help you improve, or at least to some extent, or I could actually practice and learn stuff and work on my technique. And that was really when I started playing with bands, when I was about 16 or 17. And that really changed things as well. But it gave me that show was the objective, Will Chad be able to play through this set without a ton of mistakes and looking like a dork on stage? And I feel fairly confident to say we were usually all right.
Yeah, and I think, those are different ways of learning, which go to the, I think the way that I'm used to, it's just a more structured teacher kind of thing, helps with the remember, understand, analyze, evaluate. But it doesn't help with the, actually, I'd say partially with the understanding. Because I don't think you fully can understand it until, you're applying it, yeah. And then obviously create is much easier in your style of than mine of just singing. Like even though she tries to get me to like, you know, do these little compositions, it's not the same of being in a situation where you're freer to just mess around and not follow something.
Right.
And once you kind of get used to the fact that you're going to make a mistake every now and again, you don't get caught up on that.
Exactly. Sometimes though, no structure can be freeing. Other times it can be almost limiting. It's really weird how that works. And that's
I think
the other
it's freeing
thing
right now for me, but I still look forward to like going back to that structure.
Right. And that's why I think objectives are so important, especially for younger teachers, because the more I teach, I always have an objective in mind, but I maybe don't write it down. I used to write all my lesson plans, right? And I was teaching 25 or more lessons in the Czech Republic. It would have just been too time consuming for me to write out every lesson I gave because there were different, you know, I was asked different things from different teachers, sometimes had completely different lesson plans, but usually
and they changed it at the last minute. You mentioned with
a couple
Davis.
times, sure. Yeah.
Пожалуйста.
And so, but a lot of those, you know, is in the beginning, I actually have a couple objectives I try to hit each class. One of them, I always try to review with my students what we did in the previous lesson. And you can do that a bajillion different ways. You know, have them brainstorm vocab is one that I would do. Have them, you know, you could do like a picture association where you have a bunch of pictures related to vocab words from the last lesson. Then they should talk about, oh, we think this picture represents this vocabulary word, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of options for that. So that would be the remember part, right? So that would be number one. Number two would be understand. So maybe I give them some true-false sentences or some things where I have to see, okay, do they comprehend this? Are they understanding all the vocabulary and the meaning? And so that's really important. And the other, I would say if there was one thing that I would want any teachers listening to this right now, Jared, to take out of the episode would be your objectives have to be measurable. If you just say, I want my students to know about, I don't know, the animal kingdom, right? Why? Well, can you really measure how much someone knows? I mean, it's not the same as saying, well, I want to see them organize, you know, and the animal kingdom by, you know, different types of animals or, you know.
When I worked on my last job, that, by the way, just to be clear, I really enjoyed. For like, I'd say 2 years of the 4 years that I was there, I didn't have like any clear cut goals or objectives, you know, that, you know, usually at companies, like big companies, they give you have to have like a list of, you know, 3 to 4 goals that you have to reach.
Right.
Or like objectives that I had objectives, I guess, but I didn't have like targets that I had to reach, like this many of this or this many sales or, you know, something that was hard like that. And for the first year, it was kind of nice because it's like, I mean, we have like ones based off of our department. And so if our department does well, then I do well too. But also it kind of like, so it's kind of nice to not have the pressure of that on. Mm-hmm. But then after like the first year, you know, you kind of made you feel like you were just, or made me feel like I had no really direction of what I was doing. What I was doing, it kind of makes you feel like
dangerous.
what you're doing is a little less important because it's like, clearly it's not that important to follow
see the goals. Yeah.
Yeah. And it kind of, you kind of lose direction and just what you're even, you know, what your point is. And I'm not saying get to the point where I was like, I need to get out of here, I hate this. But just in general, you're like, well, what are you like looking for? And I think it's the same thing with teaching a class. It's like knowing what it is you're looking for from the students.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so now, Jared, I want you to write these categories down for me. And I'm going to read you some of these.
Usually I have a pen and paper in front of me, but in my new setup, I don't. But I have a phone.
You got your phone. Perfect. Okay. So the 6 categories are remember, understand.
Oh, that's what I'm writing down?
Yeah. Remember, understand, apply, analyze.
I have them.
Do you have? Okay.
But you can keep going just for everyone else.
So the stages, again, are remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. So, Jared, I'm going to read off some of these verbs that you should be using to write an adjective. And I want you to tell me what category
Classic
it belongs
word association.
in. So here we go. So, comparing. Where would comparing fall? Remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, or create.
Understand.
Understand.
or
Very good.
evaluate. Oh,
Very
shit.
good. Very good.
I got nervous when there was
Always
the pause.
go with your gut, Jared. Always go with your gut. Good work. The next one, recognizing. Remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, or create.
Analyze.
Nope. Recognizing is under the
Understand.
remember.
Oh, it is?
Remember, yes, recognizing. So that would be like if you
Kill me now.
if you gave the students a word list and they had to recognize any new words that they learned in class, something like this.
So
Okay, next
recognizing
one.
is pretty low because it's like, just because you recognize it doesn't mean you actually understand it.
Exactly. Next one would be organizing. Does this fall under remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, or create?
Organizing. I would say remember.
Nope.
I would say, all right, give me a second chance.
Yep. I'll give you 3 chances.
Analyze.
Very good. Very good.
Okay.
Next, Jared, attributing.
Applying.
Analyze.
Really? I thought attribute was just another word for apply.
I guess not. I'm not really sure. Maybe it means like attributing, facts from
right.
other. I don't know.
I kind of get it, actually.
Yeah. Good. How about checking?
Evaluate.
Very good.
No, that's just another word for evaluate. That's just a fancier
Yeah.
word for evaluate.
That's true. I mean, in a way, that's how a lot of these are.
That's
Right.
true. I mean, I've done a lot of this stuff in the corporate world, too. I get it.
Right.
But the thing about it is, that's the thing I hate about some of those trainings and stuff that you do.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are just like, all right, who's picking up a random USB drive off the floor and just putting it into the work computer? You put that
Right.
into your old computer because you got to know what's on it. But
Right.
some of it just seems like obvious. But then some of it is just like, yeah, this is stuff I have to remind myself that I need to do better as a person that can be on both sides of that. Like, especially as
for
someone that's
sure.
no longer just a student, but it's in the real working world. Even you that still has colleagues.
Right.
Like, we can apply both sides of this.
Absolutely. For sure.
The teacher is
100%.
the teacher is always the student.
Definitely. And I learn new stuff all the time on a daily basis, as we all should be. We all really need to be lifelong learners. But I'm going to get off my
betcha.
soapbox, Jared. And you may be wondering, well, why even bother using Bloom's taxonomy? And I can give you 3 kind of multifaceted reasons. One of them is that objectives or learning goals are critical in establishing I'm going to use some fancy words here, Jared. Are important to establish in a pedagogical interchange in which teachers and students
Brilliant.
both understand the purpose of that pedagogical interchange. Basically, long story short, you want the students to understand what do they need to accomplish in this class, right? Mm-hmm. Then when you organize objectives, it also helps clarify for the teacher and for the students, what you need to... This is basically just what do you need to accomplish and how are we going to get there in a more compartmentalized view, a smaller view, right? Then we have, basically just having these objectives really aids in teachers' abilities to plan and deliver appropriate instruction, design valid assessment, right? Because I mentioned that objectives need to be measurable. If you can't measure them, there's really no reason in using them, right? Mm-hmm. Because how can you assess the students? How can you make sure that they've been learning and doing what they need to do?
Is that difficult for someone like you that teaches in a classroom that's not like data-based, that's not science or math or something like that, with like an answer?
It depends.
I mean, there's an answer, but
if
you know what I mean.
if it's a speaking and listening class, it's fairly easy. Did they understand the listening
That's true.
passage?
Yeah, do they know what I'm saying to them right now?
Right. Can they use these vocabulary words like I taught them at the beginning of the week? And not to toot my own horn, but most of the time, I have been pleased with the students reaching our objectives. Which
Well,
is
you know
good.
what, Chad? I'll toot your horn for you.
Thank you. So I think Bloom's taxonomy is an important first step when thinking of objectives. And like we mentioned earlier as well, try to make sure what are your goals, not what are the things you're doing to achieve those goals, right? Because those in the teaching world would be activities. In the real world, these would just be steps towards reaching your objective, right? So if you say, I don't know, I want to, maybe my goal is to I don't know, rebuild a car, right? I don't know anything about cars. Jared could probably help me out a ton with this, but probably one of the first objectives I would have would be, starting with the remember part, like, okay, what are all the parts that I need to know that I will need to repair this car? And you just kind of go up as the list continues. And just try to remember, though, that they need to be measurable. Obviously, in the real world, it's kind of you can do it or you can't do it. It's a fairly easy way to measure it.
Right.
In the teaching world, it's a little more abstract.
Do you do this lesson plan from like lesson plan to lesson plan, or is this like a sort of like an overarching goal for the semester or year or whatever?
So you've got both. You've got your curriculum objectives, right? So by the end of the semester, students, I'm trying to make one that doesn't sound like an activity, but like by the end of the semester, students will be able to
do pre-calculus.
Sure, recall or apply all of the vocabulary in chapters 1 through 10, right? Stuff like that. So it's definitely...
I'm closing my blinds. They're open and it's dark out and I feel creeped on.
You're good. So I try to think of... Usually the overarching curriculum objectives are already outlined in the syllabus, and then you use the lesson objectives to reach those overarching objectives.
Now, I used to have teacher friends back in the day, and... say there were 5 of them, 4.98 of them hated making, granted they're elementary/middle school teachers, hated making lesson plans and almost always waited until the last minute. Can you relate to that?
Sure. I mean, I've done that before because, sometimes you just have to. But I don't enjoy lesson planning, but I do enjoy kind of trying to visualize and imagine how the lesson will go. Right, especially if I have some fun games in mind, that will help me reach my objectives, whether that's, students will apply, whatever the vocab is or anything like this. So I think the nice thing is objectives usually help me really kind of speeds up my lesson plans, if you will, because you already know what your goal is, right? So if you want students... if create is something, right? Maybe you want students to create a short commercial about, maybe the topic is, like stuff at home. So you want the students to make like a commercial selling furniture, right? So your objective would be create, students will be able to create, really create any type of presentation showing their skills with the vocabulary related to, furniture, right? And so then they do that, and then you would have your rubric to grade them based on, were these objectives within the presentation reached, right? Did they speak?
Speaking of objectives and stuff, I have one more question. Do you make syllabuses?
A syllabi? A syllabus?
Syllabi, yeah. Wow.
A syllabus, sorry.
Slipping on gator piss. And you call yourself a teacher?
I know, right? Yeah, I've had to write a couple of different syllabi.
You keep those things in mind, those Bloom.
Of course.
All right. Do you actually though? Do you actually?
Yeah. 100%.
Okay. I believe you. I believe you.
You didn't seem too convinced, but yeah.
Now, I would say that the fact that you're a teacher makes you a good podcaster. You're good at explaining things. You're good at communicating.
I try.
And into a microphone and talking essentially into an abyss also.
Sometimes, yeah.
Has podcasting improved your ability to, maybe more on a day-to-day basis or even more on a longer scale basis, like improved your ability to stay to objectives or to focus objectives? You can say no, by the way. You're welcome to say no.
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes and no.
Okay.
I would say that, I guess it's just different. I do this podcast because I enjoy it with you, and I feel like we are trying to bring content to people that they'll enjoy.
Really, I'm trying to get rich.
Will be helpful. That's right. It's all right. You can get rich. It'll be like in the. All
right, this is recorded, by the way. Everyone heard that.
It'll be like the documentary now. Episode where they have the guys do the Blue Jean Committee. Have you seen this?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it is so funny. But one of them gets rich and one of them is just happy to be there. So I guess I'm the one that's happy to be here. Jared's the one getting rich. But anyways, so...
You betcha.
Yeah, back to your question, though. I would say the thing is that I have different objectives in mind with this podcast than with my teaching, right? Because they're two, in a way, they're similar, but they're also different. Because our general audience for the podcast is way different than my students. My students
I think
have to learn things for exams and stuff. We don't have any...
Maybe I'm thinking more mechanically in the sense that, like, you're naturally going to be a better speaker, I think, because you're used to having to sort of facilitate. Not that we're doing a class here, but you kind of have to stay structured. It's a subtle class. You have to structure, like we kind of structure this essentially like a class where the different sort of things we have to hit.
Sure.
And I don't know, maybe it helped you stay on topic more. Maybe it helped you sort of consider different ways of communicating or ways of teaching something.
I've thought of using a Trello board in my teaching. Actually, not even kidding. Trello, for those of you who are listening, it's like the way Jared and I kind of keep on tabs of what segments we're doing. And shout out to BVP. That was a podcast I worked on a few years ago, and they use Trello, and that's how I found out about it.
Okay.
But yeah,
not to brag, but I haven't had my Trello open this entire episode. We're just that good, everyone.
Ooh, all right. Well, it keeps me in sync with everything. So yeah, but I think it's the same with lesson planning. You got to be. I have definitely cut different activities when I've realized, okay, this activity I had it in there because it would maybe be a fun filler or whatever. But if time's getting a little tight and I'm like, well, that activity doesn't 100% align with our objectives for today, I might cut it. But the nice thing is once you have taught lessons and you're really thinking of the objectives, it becomes so much easier to also, as I mentioned earlier, just create lesson plans.
Yeah. And I think the good thing about something like this, for example, when I was interviewing for jobs, one of the companies I interviewed for, they told me this company uses the STAR method of interviewing, which is like situation. Why did I do this to myself? Situation, task, action, result. Yep. So it's like, what was the situation? What were the tasks that you set up to solve the situation? How did what was the process of implementing those tasks, and what was the result of those tasks? And so they use this to one, to make sure that people can follow directions because they tell you beforehand that they're going to use this, but two, it's a efficient way to get to the point and not dilly-dally around answers. And I did a lot of practicing for interviews and jobs because I was unemployed. The good thing about using that tactic was, one, this was one of the earlier interviews I had, and so my thought was not only does this help prepare me for this interview, but this is this system makes me essentially know exactly what questions could be asked. So maybe they might ask it differently, but I need 7 answers down to be able to answer 20 questions essentially.
Sure.
And so for the first time, as I was doing it, I had to remind myself, all right, don't say this like you're a robot that's been programmed to only answer STAR-style interview questions. The situation that I found myself in was where I was doing this, and I thought, what would be some good tasks to solve this? And so, that's how you kind of start, but then after a while, it just answering something in that process just becomes second nature without having to think about, all right, this means do this means do that. And much like teaching, one, it keeps you focused on what you're actually doing, and it kind of cuts out all of the fat, unlike I'm doing right now by explaining it.
Yeah, for sure. And what I'd like to do, Jared, is just give you and the listeners out there a few more examples of some of these different types of objectives you can use through Bloom's taxonomy. So if we go to remember, we have here just a few examples, right? Students will be able to list primary and secondary colors. Right? Or students, that's right. Or students will be able to recognize, if you're teaching like a class at med school, students will be able to recognize symptoms of exhaustion, right? Or students...
Except they can't recognize it themselves because doctors are some of the most overworked people out there.
That's true. That's a side note. Next up, we have recall, which would be students will be able to recall how to, once again, a med school example, recall how to perform CPR, right? And recall usually just means they, in a way, kind of repeat something, right? It's not 100% them independently producing everything. They're repeating things.
So it's like the physical aspect of remembering. It's like you have the muscle memory, but you might not be able to know the proper situation to apply that, or what happens if this happens. How do you respond to that? You just know, like, well, this is something you do. Like, for example, I just started a new job, and someone showed me like how to get to one of the systems we use, and essentially how to use it. But in my head, I'm also trying to remember, all right, what are the situations that I'm going to find myself in where I'm going to have to pull this up and use this? Like, what are the situations that make me even have to be able to apply this skill that I have?
Right. Yeah.
And that, I think, is almost harder than being able to figure out, especially when it's coming to like technology and how to use something on a computer. For the most part, if you get a basic training, anyone our age can almost figure that stuff out. Right. But I might not know the proper sort of thing I'm trying to show in order, like why am I using this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good example. Another one for understand, then the next category would be like, for example, students will be able to summarize features of a new product, or summarize a story using past tense verbs, for example, right? Or
I feel like you're going to sell me like Amway or like some sort of medicine after this presentation.
That's the plan.
And I say all this to explain that you can start for a nominal starting fee.
Got to get Jared involved in my pyramid scheme. That's right. Next up, we have clarify.
Marketing. Sorry, go ahead.
You're good. And clarify would be, if there's any basically being able to explain something. Can you explain something or not? And I think that's really when you start to understand things. They say that the student really only becomes a true teacher, or really understands the information as a student once they have to reteach it. Which makes sense. Then for apply would be like, respond to questions in English based on this, or, use, apply, use. Basically this is at least in terms of me as a speaking and listening teacher, that it gets more to the difficult areas of having students start to apply things in terms of producing things on their own, right? But yeah, so then we have, apply, then we have analyze. So you could have students differentiate, right? If you're doing a speaking and listening class, you would play a listening example, and they would have to differentiate between, it could be a multiple choice question based on the listening or whatever, have to differentiate things, right? Or deconstruct, where you would give students a listening and then they have to maybe try to write down what they hear and really look at it.
My teacher used to, I don't remember exactly why, but she used to play a note and then play a note somewhere higher or lower.
Yep.
And I had to guess which, what the interval was.
Yeah, relative pitch. That's great.
Oh, man, it's difficult. That stressed me out.
It's difficult, but that's good. That's really good. That's awesome. Next up, we have evaluate.
That sounds like what you're talking about. Was I right to bring that up there?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
I just want to make sure I wasn't bringing that up out of nowhere for no reason.
No, you're good.
Thanks. We talked about that 20 minutes ago.
You're good. Then we have evaluate. So students will be able to determine, is this good or bad, right? You play them listening. Was this good or bad, and why? Right? Or reflect on the listening. What did you learn about it? What were some new words? Being able to evaluate and make judgments based on criteria and standards is really important as students progress as language learners. Then lastly, we have create.
What's interesting to me? Let me say this real quick. Create is number one. And but right below that is evaluating. And it's so funny because I think about music, movies, art of any kind. The people that can't create it are the evaluators.
Yeah, it's two very different skills, I would say. Creating and evaluating. Yeah, you're very right.
Sorry, that's just
you're
random.
Good. And so creating would be like design a PowerPoint, or design like an elevator pitch for something, or basically anything that where students are putting elements together to form a more coherent whole is really when you're creating, right? So it could be And creating, I would say, is used a lot, obviously, in writing classes, if we're talking about language learning here. But you can also do a lot of creation from speaking as well, which is really nice. And so these different aspects of Bloom's taxonomy are very important to keep in mind, but are very helpful in guiding teachers on their way to creating quicker lessons and hopefully also more meaningful and purposeful lessons as well.
And I like to think that I did an okay job of showing that, like, there's still things that I can apply to not just work but life too.
Oh, for sure.
And I have nothing to do with. I'm not a teacher by any means.
Absolutely. You are on this podcast though, Jared. That's for sure.
Oh,
But,
wow. Thank you.
But yeah,
Mama hoo-hoo.
I would agree. I mean, I think objectives are important to have in teaching and in life as well. And so keep that in mind. You know, what is your purpose? What do you really want to accomplish? Because I think asking yourself sometimes these bigger, more difficult questions to answer will help you out so much in your journey to achieving whatever you're trying to achieve.
You betcha. I agree. Let's talk music.
Let's do it.
So did I cut you off there for a second?
Just a little bit, but that's okay. Let's talk music, Jared.
I honestly, you know, Chad just said it too. I wasn't following the Trello.
That's true.
This is how we avoid these things. This is how you sticking to the objectives of the podcast.
That's all right, though. That is all right. So our song of the pod today, Jared found it. And can you give us the title and the name of the song?
Sure. I found it. One, shout out to my sister. I mentioned that I'm trying to learn Spanish, and I'm taking the more active approach. Granted, I haven't watched that show since, just because I'm so bad at watching TV shows. I'm bad at keeping up with shows. I'm bad at starting new shows. I was just unemployed. Anyway, so I was telling my sister that I was trying to learn more, and that show that I talked about a couple episodes, Falsa Identidad, was a show that my sister and I watched together for the first time when I was in Michigan last in the hotel Holiday Inn Express.
Good times.
And so I was telling her I was trying to learn Spanish, and so she hit me up with some songs that she likes that are not in English, and one of them was by Ana Tijoux.
Sure.
Well,
Tijoux.
She is Chilean and French. And the song is called Antipatriarca. Oh, I get it now.
Anti-patriarch.
Yeah. Antipatriarca. Oh,
Yep.
yeah, okay, I see that now. That's so hilarious. That makes so much sense. You know what's funny? I don't think my sister sent... Oh, by the way, so Ana Tijoux, speaking of... she is a... I'd say a hip-hop singer. She speaks Spanish, obviously. Maybe French, too. I don't know. The songs I heard from her, which are more than just this one, but I like this one, are in Spanish. And now, I only knew words here and there, but what I also liked about the song, and I wonder if this is a common thing among a lot of Spanish-speaking hip-hop, is I felt like this was a great way to learn the language. Like, just listening to it, I'm like, oh, like, I could definitely use this to learn the language.
Oh,
do you understand what I'm saying when I say that?
It's very repetitive. Absolutely.
It's not overly fast either,
right?
Per se, but it's good. I like it a lot too.
Absolutely.
And it's something also. That's another reason why I think it's good, because it seemed like the words was nothing. The words were nothing complicated, but then it's also something that I enjoyed listening to, and something that was, I think, even as someone that doesn't understand Spanish, but he gets it in at least how it kind of supposed to sound, you could at least sort of enjoy it enough to sing along to it, even if you didn't know all the words. I think it's definitely possible.
Sure. And the message is great. I mean, it basically advocates for women's independence and freedom, which I am 100% behind.
We obviously here are not. Yeah.
Absolutely. I cannot. This message is absolutely
that was a joke
fantastic.
By everyone. This on my part. I was.
Yeah, you speak for yourself, Jared.
I don't want you to just blow by that and act like I didn't just say that.
I didn't actually hear you, but
I said which for us is not. I was going to say it's not a big deal, but anyway,
selective hearing.
But
the chorus is fantastic. I have the English translation up.
Oh, good.
So I'm going to read it.
Please.
It is. Let's see here. Chorus is not submissive nor obedient, strong rebel woman, independent and brave, breaking the chains of indifference, not passive nor oppressed, beautiful woman, you give life, emancipated in autonomy, anti-patriarch and happiness. Liberate. So yeah,
Bars.
so it's a strong song, but it has a great message, and I really think that we men out there definitely need to do a better job respecting women and giving them the autonomy they deserve as well.
You betcha.
So it's fantastic. Check it out. Antipatriarca. My Spanish is terrible. Sorry. By Anna Tijoux.
Mine's
Check it out
worse.
on our Twitter, Untranslatable1, and also our YouTube channel, Untranslatable Podcast. We hope you enjoy.
Пожалуйста.
And ladies, we hope the song also empowers all of you out there, and men as well. It's just an absolutely
Empowers
fantastic
you to give
song.
us 5-star reviews. I'm just kidding.
That's right.
But since I brought
So
it up,
speaking of Spanish, though, Jared, I'm curious to hear what your Spanish word of the pod is for today.
now I'm sure you know this one. So I'm going to use it in a phrase first. Just to make it potentially a little bit more difficult for you. Voy a la escuela.
Let's go to school.
I go to school, but yeah, I said voy,
okay.
which would be the I. But yeah, the word was escuela. La escuela, that's a word I learned a while ago. And honestly, I didn't really need translator, but obviously I used it. I'm full transparency. I did use it.
Yep.
But I didn't need it. And that seemed very fitting because you took me to La Escuela today learning about objectives and myself. I'm not going to lie.
Good. And I hope our listeners can vibe with that as well, Jared. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Well,
me too.
well, Jared, I think it's time for a few Jaises, and on a light note, because this has been a bit of a headier episode, I would say. So Jared, for all of our students listening out there, what's the best way to get straight A's?
Cheat.
Don't listen to Jared and use a ruler.
Oh,
Your A's aren't going to
Okay.
be straight if you're not using a ruler, Jared.
that's true. By the way, I learned that this is a sign of someone that's either very creative or smart, one of the two, or neither, or an idiot. But like when I was a kid, I really struggled with writing in a straight line on paper without like without a line.
Yeah, me
like,
too.
I really struggle with that. But I heard it's a sign of creativity. But
There
I
you
think
go,
maybe
Jared.
that's just my parents trying to make me feel better. All right, give me another
It could
one.
be. You never know.
I can't imagine they would try to make me feel
How did the
better.
music teacher get locked in the classroom?
How's that?
His keys were inside the piano. Yeah.
He left his keys on the saxophone.
What do elves learn in school, Jared?
Slave labor.
The alphabet, but you're also right. Don't be ruining Christmas for all these people out here, Jared. Come on now,
Yeah,
Jared.
spoiler alert for all the children that listen.
Right. And the last one.
Santa's
we'll do-
real. He just uses slave labor.
That's right. The last one for you is, why did the music teacher need a ladder?
Oh, that's easy.
Why is that?
To hit the high notes.
There you go.
To
Good
reach the
work,
high notes.
Jared. Good work. This is why I keep you around as a co-host, Jared. And because you're
ruin
just a
your
great guy
jokes.
in general. Exactly. That's right. Well, Jared, it's time for a quote of the pod today. Mm-hmm. And I think in teaching and in life, you have to have objectives. You have to have a purpose, a goal, an endpoint you want to reach, and use it to help shape your lessons, shape your semesters, shape your years, and make the most out of it.
Now, and that I agree with you, and that's why I also like this episode as someone that's not a teacher, is because I wanted to see how applicable this was to real life. Now, let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. Are you someone that tends to make New Year's resolutions?
Not really.
No, me neither. Goals?
Not
Do you
really.
have goals? By
Yeah,
this year, I
of
want to do
course.
this. Okay, just
Yeah,
curious.
I have a couple. Yeah, I have a couple goals. Some
'Cause
financial ones, some guitar ones, some teaching ones. Absolutely.
Because that my goal was to show that this stuff could be applied to anything in life, and I think I did an
And they
okay
can.
job of that.
Yeah.
You betcha. My
think-
soundboard says I did.
I think they're definitely. I think these are great. Objectives are they're great whenever you want to really, I think, accomplish something. You know, if you're sick of just kind of floating around in life, try to come up with some good goals or objectives. And if you are having, difficulties, if you're a teacher, planning your lessons, Bloom's taxonomy is a great tool to help plan your lessons and your semesters, your curricula, on and on and on.
Untranslatable approved.
Absolutely. So
Now,
check that out.
if I had notes in front of me, I'd tell myself write down to post a picture of the Bloom's taxonomy triangle to post online. But I also said that because I'll hear this and I'll do it. So check that out on Twitter.
There you go,
Not
everybody.
Instagram. It doesn't fit Instagram. Our Instagram has an aesthetic to it. People.
That is true. That is true.
We don't
Very
do pictures
keen on
from
the
the
aesthetic.
internet.
That's right. Well, we hope this episode has been a helpful one for you, and you can use these objectives in your lessons or in your real life.
You
It'd be
betcha.
fantastic. Let us know if you were able to use any of these objectives in your teaching or in your everyday life at untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com. Slide into Jared's DMs on Twitter, untranslatable1, to check out our Song of the Pods and Jared's charming wittiness, I guess is the way you would say that. That's right. Some finger guns for you, buddy. Also, please do not forget 5-star reviews on iTunes and Stitcher. Let us know what we can do to make this podcast better for you. We would really appreciate it. So without further ado, we thank you all so much for tuning in and all of your support. And as we say here at the Untranslatable Podcast, recuíame a muchas gracias.